All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to skip the long intros today and jump right into the high-stakes reality of securing crypto investment. Look, you've probably spent months perfecting your tokenomics, right? Your smart contracts are flawlessly audited, and your pitch deck? It's an absolute work of art. But there's this invisible barrier standing between you and the capital you need to scale. And surprisingly, it has absolutely nothing to do with your technology. So what actually happens when an investor Googles you? Let's dive into this, because it completely shatters the whole assumption that your pitch deck is the first thing that matters. Think about it. If I'm an investor and you hand me a brilliant pitch, the very first thing I do before I even open your deck is open a new tab. I'm typing your project's name into that search bar, and that blank search page, that is exactly where trust is instantly won or where it's permanently lost.
10 seconds. I really want you to burn this number into your mind. You do not have 10 minutes, and you certainly don't have an hour-long discovery call to make a solid first impression. You have a ruthless 10-second window. That is literally how long it takes an investor looking at a search results page to judge whether your project is a credible, serious contender or if it's just risky, unsubstantiated noise.
And this brings us to the core problem we're unpacking in this explainer. The hard truth is, most crypto projects don't fail because of tech, they fail the moment an investor Googles them. Think about it like a digital ghost town, empty search results, or a footprint that relies purely on a Twitter account and a Telegram channel. That's a massive red flag. If an investor searches your name and finds no news articles, no press mentions, zero authority signals, well, you've already lost their trust before your pitch even starts.
Section 1. The Signal First Evaluator.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that this requires a complete mindset shift for most founders. Founders are naturally product first. You want to talk about the code, the roadmap, the utility. But the investor looking at your search results, they aren't looking for truth. They are evaluating signals. This is the absolute anchor of our entire explainer today. You've got to stop thinking like an engineer for a minute and start thinking like a signal evaluator.
Okay, let's dive into exactly what these evaluators are hunting for when they scan that search page. There are 4 vital pillars. First up is authority. Are there credible press mentions actually talking about your project? Second, legitimacy. Is there third-party media validation, or are you literally the only one talking about yourself? Third is momentum. Do you have recent coverage showing the project is alive and moving? And finally, reputation. What's the overall sentiment across the broader crypto community? These 4 signals form the absolute foundation of instant trust.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. In those first 10 seconds, the investor's goal is strictly risk mitigation. They are not trying to comprehend the super complex nuances of your layer 2 scaling solution. Nope. They're asking themselves, if I put money into this, am I gonna look foolish? Has anyone else vetted this? Your digital footprint's only job at this stage is just to lower their perceived risk.
Section 2. A Tale of Two Projects.
First, let's look at the invisible project. And honestly, this is a painfully common footprint. When searched, all that pops up are direct links to their own Twitter and Telegram. Zero PR coverage. They completely do not exist on Google News. There's absolutely no third-party validation. This is an incredibly uncomfortable position to be in, because to an investor, a project that only talks about itself is a massive red flag. It just screams that the project is either way too early or way too risky.
Now, immediately contrast that with a strong footprint. When you search this project, the entire page just lights up with third-party validation. You see PR articles across respected crypto media outlets, you see indexed founder interviews, you see thought leadership pieces ranking organically on Google. This multi-source coverage builds a cohesive, unshakable narrative. It literally surrounds the project with an aura of inevitability.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive cognitive dissonance in how investors react. A weak profile instantly triggers defensive questions, right? Like, is this even real? Why is no one covering this? It's simply too risky. But a strong profile totally flips the script. Now they're thinking, okay, this looks validated. Others are tracking this. This is a lower risk entry. Here is the realization that should probably keep every crypto founder awake at night. These 2 projects we just looked at, they could be at the exact same stage of development. They could literally have the exact same technical fundamentals, but simply because of their search footprint, the investor perception is completely, wildly different. Your pristine code means absolutely nothing if the perception of your project is shrouded in risk.
Section 3. The Real Cost of Invisibility.
The first immediate cost here is massive friction right at the top of your fundraising funnel. When your project looks invisible, your cold outreach just falls flat. Investor response rates completely plummet, and even when you do manage to get a meeting, the conversations are significantly harder. You end up spending the entire pitch trying to prove you're legitimate, rather than actually discussing the massive upside of your technology.
From there, the tension only builds. Because you lack credible third-party validation, you lose all your leverage. This leads straight to weak valuation anchoring. Look, when an investor feels they are taking on all the risk because literally no one else is talking about you, they are going to demand a much lower valuation. You're actively destroying your own project's momentum simply by being invisible.
And here is the ultimate frustration for any builder. You will watch capital flow right to your competitors with technically inferior products simply because they have search dominance. The investor doesn't know their code is worse. They only know that when they Google the competitor, they see a wave of positive press and validation.
In crypto, invisibility is more expensive than failure. I really want that to sink in. If you fail loudly, you at least learn, you pivot, and you carry your network with you. But if you're invisible, you just bleed out slowly. You starve for capital and attention without ever really understanding why the market ignored you in the first place.
Section 4. PR as trust engineering.
In the crypto space, PR is so often mistaken for cheap hype or just vanity metrics, but that is completely wrong. Strategic PR is an absolute existential requirement for securing capital. It's about engineering trust. It's about owning your narrative before someone else does. It's about achieving search dominance so that when that investor hits enter on Google, they see exactly what you want them to see.
The urgency here really cannot be overstated. If you do not actively control your Google presence, you are leaving your credibility entirely up to chance. You're basically letting a total search void, or worse, a single disgruntled Reddit comment, define your entire project to the market. You absolutely must take control of this narrative.
And this brings us to your actionable takeaway for this explainer. You've got to stop hoping investors will just get it and start actively building your digital footprint. You need to explore PR packages and strategies designed specifically to build visibility, establish credibility, and engineer that crucial investor trust from day one. Do not wait until you're desperate for funding to start building your search presence.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to evaluate right now. Open a private browsing tab and search for your own project. Look at the results through the ruthless eyes of a signal-first investor. In those first 10 seconds, are you actively engineering trust, or are you just hoping they'll figure it out? The answer to that question might just be the most important factor in your project's survival. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and seriously, I highly encourage you to go run that search right now.
Subscribe and visit Web3 Newswire for visibility and credibility of your Web3 projects.